I don't feel good about myself. I feel like I'm not really living up to my potential. I'm not making as much money as I want to. Or why does that person have something and I want it? Or I feel lonely. It doesn't matter what it is. We can pull our phone out or device out and we could just start scrolling. And we just get all of this unearned dopamine over and over and over and distracting ourselves. At the first hint of I might not be a good person, we can immediately run to distraction.
Hi, welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
So yesterday we only live about 90 minutes away from Washington, D.C., where we live here in Gettysburg, Antonia. We drove down there. It was a Sunday. At the time of this recording on a Monday. It was a Sunday afternoon, and the Smithsonian museums are open. So we took Piper down for the day to go to the National History Museum in DC. And it's wonderful. If you've ever been to Washington, DC, all the government Smithsonian buildings are free. Some you have to reserve tickets for ahead of time just for numbers sake. But you get to go into them, and there's amazing. We got to see the Star-Spangled Banner, like the actual flag that was flying over Fort McHenry in
It's huge. It's like the size of a house.
It was crazy.
It's enormous.
So we get to see that, and tons of artifacts in American history and the stories of the different people. There's like this house from Massachusetts they recreated there. It's a wonderful exhibit, a very interesting place, lots of levels. We didn't even get to see all of it.
Yeah.
Good learning experience. I was standing there in the, there's this warfare area where all the different wars that America's been involved with, as well as, the artifacts from those wars and the stories. In the
freedom isn't free portion.
That's right.
It was about wars that have been fought specifically for freedom and the sacrifices that have had, we have to make in order to keep American spirit and freedom going. And it was a great exhibit, actually.
I'm standing there and I'm looking at this. It's like a kit that they sold in the 1940s for children and families called the Blackout Kit. Mm-hmm. And it was designed for you to be able to cover the keyholes and the windows in your house and anything that could emit light, because the Nazis were, at least in Europe, they were taking bombers across the English Channel and dropping bombs on London at the time during World War II. And so Americans were like, this could happen to us. We might have to go into blacking out New York City or some of the East Coast, even Washington, D.C. from the Nazi bombers coming over, because this was happening in London, right? There's all this is attacking. There's attacks happening in London. They have to have blackouts. So I'm looking at this blackout kit. And then right next to it are these ration tickets for butter and sugar and bacon and salt and all the staples. And I'm showing Piper, I'm talking about, look, my grandparents, Piper, told me stories about all of this. I wasn't alive yet, but even your grandparents were alive, but your great-grandparents, my grandparents were alive during World War II. Both your grandfathers fought in the war, or great-grandfathers fought in the war, and these ration tickets were real. You couldn't just go buy butter if you wanted something. There's no DoorDash during World War II, right? Not only do you have enough DoorDash, you have to go and you have to have a ticket to be able to buy certain products and things that you need, because the entire American country was involved in supporting this. Mm-hmm. And so we had to ration food at home, the people here at home. And there was even some stuff talking about turn in your old grease. We can use it in bomb making for munitions and things.
Well, and
give us your baking grease. Or
all these recipes and all these ways of explaining how to can so that you could have food during the winter.
Yeah.
There was a lot of sacrifices that were made by citizens in World War II.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here staring at this going, we are so detached from that world. Mm-hmm. Here in the 21st century, the time of this recording, we have, and I'm careful what I say here because I'm not wishing this upon us.
Right. We
have no clue how bad it could get or how much sacrifice we have to go through. And I would say all of us have a pretty modern experience of it. We have a lot of modern technologies and availables. Now, I'm not trying to speak to there's no wealth disparity. Clearly there's the haves and the have-nots. There's people that are always suffering and don't have enough resource and food. And so I just want to make a comment to that, because I'm not going to necessarily address that. If you're like, well, but wait a minute, of course there's always people that are struggling no matter what's going on. But the set point for all of humanity, I think, is higher than it's ever been. The absolute poverty level is higher. The floor of absolute poverty has been raised across the entire world, and certainly in the country I live in here in America.
Yeah, in particular in this country. Yeah. The floor is much higher than it was before. So that's the experience I had yesterday. And then you and I have been talking a lot about the changes that have been coming into the world. AI's on the scene. I think after COVID, there was a consolidation of social media to we had never seen before, right? Everybody's on Zoom, everybody's online.
these platforms exploded during the pandemic and lockdowns, and changes are afoot. Right. I was just listening to a Gary V video. Gary V's a guy that teaches a lot about social media marketing and for big brands and companies. He's been around for like 15, 20 years.
Gary
Vaynerchuk. Yeah. Yep. So you might have heard of him if you're listening or watching. And he's talking a lot about how social media is probably going to change, maybe even go away within 5 years, like completely because AI. Mm-hmm. And, like you might order a pizza through your Alexa app and it's not going to care what brand. It's just going to get you the pizza. Like it's not going to be choosy. It's going to pick what it thinks is the best for you. Your AI is going to make a lot of these decisions.
Well, he was basically talking about a world in the future very quickly, very soon in the future. Once again, our reality updating to look extremely different than what we're used to right now. Like, yes. And he was even saying like, maybe phones go away. Yeah. Like maybe we have other technologies, other hardware technologies that we talk to AI. And AI makes a bunch of decisions that we right now have to make for ourselves. And you mentioned the example of, hey Siri or whatever, like Alexa or whatever is the AI that we're talking to. It's like, hey, I just got home from work. Yeah,
Bob.
Bob, the
hey,
AI.
Bob.
I just got home from work. I'm really tired. I'd like to order pizza. My sister, or my daughter's gluten-free. My son prefers pepperoni. And this is how much money I have in the bank. And
it'll already know that.
Or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it already knows that. It's like, hey, can you order us pizza? And so now your AI assistant or sidekick or whatever is now just handling those details for you. So yes. You might, maybe you have a preference. It's like, hey, I prefer the sauce over here or whatever, but it's going to be making determinations for you. And you might not be doing it through a phone. It might be something that's like tied in through your house or hardware, or like maybe even something that's been implanted. Yeah. So there are a lot of different potential possibilities for the future where like a lot, like things we actively choose. I'm going to go to this social media site is not going to be in our unconscious anymore. It's like a lot of stuff is going to be curated for us, which is one possibility rolling out, but I think it's a pretty high possibility.
Yeah. Well, and I'll end the AI tangent here on this to say there's two types of people. There's people that are going to get on the AI bandwagon, mm-hmm. and then the people that bury their heads and get left behind. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it. In that same video, Gary Vaynerchuk says, basically technology always wins.
Yeah.
It always wins. Think about how many people wouldn't give up. He uses illustration. How people said, I'm never giving up my BlackBerry. It's got real buttons on it. I know. Right? And he's like, everybody laughed in the whole audience.
There's a third style probably, which I would call like people who have decided to be Luddites.
Absolutely.
Right.
They're consciously, intentionally going in a different direction.
That's right.
And I would say that's going to be a very small remnant. And that's going to be hard. We still have the Amish, mm-hmm. right? That didn't go to the zippers.
Well, and they're
still with buttons, right?
When I lived in Alaska, there are people who are homesteaders, right? Who just go find a plot of land and go live off the land. And there's always going to be those people. So I wouldn't say they're left behind, but they're not left behind. Like what happened? They didn't bury their heads. They just decided to not be a part of it.
Sure. And so we gave an asterisk to you if you're listening or watching, you're that person, but everybody else is going to follow those other two categories.
Right.
So we made the caveat, but everyone's going to either get on board or going to be left behind.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a remnant of people that have the wherewithal to exit society in a way that makes sense
for them.
But those people are probably already doing it now anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of that said, you and I have also been going through some changes in our company, and we have realized this is the big insight. This is where I'm driving all of this to start the conversation off today.
Okay.
This is the inciting incident if I was writing a screenplay. We've been talking a lot about how when we were in the early days of our business, it was easy to get attention because not a lot of people were doing podcasting. So our podcast could grow really fast mm-hmm. without us doing all the extras of like making sure thumbnails were nice and all the things you have to do now to get success online. We didn't have to do all of that in the early days. So we weren't sure exactly what was successful or not because traffic was so free and cheap and easy and things were so ubiquitous. There was so much hunger for content, particularly this niche content here.
Yeah.
That we weren't exactly certain of what we were doing that was excellent. And we worked really hard and we tried to be very principled. And we never talked about topics, so we didn't ever get bound to a specific time or space.
We tried to be timeless on purpose. We tried to not weave in too much of current events.
Yeah.
And we were consistent.
Yes.
I would say that that's the one thing that we knew was going to be important. Well, you knew consistency was going to be really important. Yeah. So we worked hard, we were consistent. But according to, there's that book that you read and you've read me portions of, which is always really interesting when you do, which is the book Read, Write, Own. And I don't know who wrote it. You might remember the name.
Dixon. I can't remember I think the last name's Dixon.
Read, Write, Own, and he talks about how like traffic on the internet was just free and abundant and available, and like fish are jumping in the boat.
Yeah.
So we benefited a lot from timing.
Yeah.
We started in January 2014, and we did work hard and we were consistent, but we still benefited from timing.
A lot of people also started that time. It didn't make it. So there were things we were doing. I just don't know exactly what they were.
Well, that's
We're
true.
finding those out now.
Right.
And I think the big lesson is what was actually happening is because success was undefined in my mind, and we were working hard and putting a lot of things in that we knew would be successful. We weren't exactly sure.
Yeah.
We were able to subsidize bad habits. This is the whole point of where I'm driving this to.
Yeah. Yep.
We were able to subsidize bad habits to the degree that now when things are a little bit tougher and the world's changing, we have to actually step up into learning new things in order to make this work. I'm realizing just where our bad habits lied, and it's really hard to undo them now.
Yes.
And it made me start to think, oh no, and this is the next level of this. If we did that at a very low level just in our business, that means humanity is probably doing that right now before this AI shift is happening. In other words, the way life has been manufactured in the 20th century post-World War II and the modernist and industrial soil that our current life was seeded and grown in is about to end. Like the 20th century model, the modernist model, I mean, we've already been postmodern for 30 years or so, maybe 50, 60 years if you go back to the academic side of it in the 60s. But we've been postmodern in the cultural way at least 30 years. I remember watching the Disney movie, the Disney cartoon, The Emperor's New Groove, and where he would break the fourth wall and talk directly to the audience. And I thought at the time, that's so cool. That's a very postmodern kind of deconstructive way of presenting media. I think it came out in the year 2000. So right at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, we've got this postmodern media just hitting hard. You add social media to that, and now we see where we're at now in a very postmodern place. So modernism's almost dead. Like it's almost going away. And we're in this postmodern, and we're going to be here for a while. I think we're also going Graves 5, Spiral Dynamics Orange. We won't talk about that. You can look that up. We've got podcasts about it. So this shift, I think, is going to highlight just how addicted we've been to strategies that only worked in that model. And I think that there's a crisis that's coming. Obviously, there's going to be identity crisis when AI hits and this is where I think personality types come in, at least from my standpoint. Who am I if I'm not what I do? Like, I don't have a role now. I don't go to work, and that's how I define myself. I define myself based on what? Question mark, question mark, question mark. And I think this is where the Jungian personality types, a lot of people pursue personality type around the behavior side of it. Like, well, if you're this type, you'll do this behaviors. And that's great. We can do that. But also it's about identity and a sense of self and whole self and knowing more of a psycho-spiritual sense of self and a map to that. That's what personality type brings us. So these habits, this success that we don't know why we've had it, and if it goes away, I'm really mindful. I'm very much looking at what happens when people's strategies start to be exposed. That, that was just something I got away with. And I'm not even talking about bad behavior. There's no moral or purity frame to any of this. I'm literally just speaking to the shift that's coming, and I think that we're going to have to update very quickly. And this is where I think personality type can give us a ballast. I think it already was a ballast out of modernism to postmodernism. I can't imagine the ballast that we're going to need, a sense of self, when it's going to be hard to determine what's real or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm already having a hard time telling content online. I think I'm seeing an AI bot talk to me.
Yeah.
Because he keeps talking about live streaming. Like this ad I keep watching on YouTube, it's like, I live stream all this all the time. I'm like, I bet that's AI mispronouncing live stream. That's probably not even a person I'm watching on that video. And I would only know that because the AI hasn't gotten sophisticated enough to know the difference between the contextual difference between live and live.
Yeah.
Because they're spelled the same.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
You looked concerned as I say all this.
No.
You looked very serious and you're writing things. I'm like, is it too doom and gloom what I'm saying?
No, I just, you've opened a lot of loops, so I'm writing them down. I'm sort of writing down all of the things that you mentioned.
Well, let's summarize and we'll pick where we're going to go.
Well, if I were to repeat back to you what I think you're saying, and I have a little bit of an advantage because we discussed the topic of the podcast a bit before it, but
Say what?
It always emerges slightly different than what we expect.
Exactly. And I know we did a little.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that the crux of the point sounds like success. If you're not sure how you created it, if you didn't create success by having sort of this flawless system, which I don't think anybody ever does, but if you have success and you're not 100% sure how you created it, then if you have bad habits in there, if you have success despite bad habits, the success itself will hide those habits from you. It's almost like it subsidizes it.
Yes.
And I can think of it in terms of, so Personality Hacker has like conceptually been around for about 15 years now. And it's been technically around for, like 13-ish years or something. And the first, I see them in 5-year chunks. I see the business in the first 5 years, which was establishment and trying to figure out how all like this whole online business thing worked. We're talking like 2010 to 2015. That's when we started the podcast. That's when we got an official LLC. That's when we started to tap into, sort of affiliates and connecting to people who would be able to introduce us to their audience. And like that's the establishment phase. And there was a lot of hustle, and I wouldn't say that we were particularly wealthy during any of that, but we did get some success, and it was very encouraging. And then the next 5 years, which is around 2016 to 2015 to 2020, I would say, was it was like a spike point. Mm-hmm. And that was the time period where, to your point, we experienced success without 100% knowing why we were having it. And the reason why I say we didn't 100% know why we had it is because we were actually offending quite a few business principles during that time period.
Yep.
We got success despite the fact that we were not doing things according to models that were time tested, right? Time tested models. And we did that thing that all dumb people do, early on in their business, which is my business is different, right? We had the conceit around it. And there is some ways in which our business is different. It is harder to do something, say, 16 times than to do it just one time. And so there was a lot of encouragement around test iterating. It's like, man, you have to test iterate 16 different things in 16 different ways. And that made it much more difficult than like one thing and test iterating that one thing, in different marketing and that sort of, we weren't entirely wrong that the product was very different than other people's, but we were wrong that we didn't have to obey foundational business principles, and we could get away with that in perpetuity. So we had a bit of conceit, and there was, there's some ego in there, and, there's just personal stuff. But the ego and the personal stuff and the not honoring foundational time-tested business strategies, that ended up not being a major problem during that 5 years because we were benefiting from success that also was like basically I wouldn't say it was accidental. Like we worked very hard, and it wasn't just coincidental. But it was, it wasn't entire. There's like a node in the system of time, circumstance, and luck. It
was asynchronous.
Right.
It's hard to predict what led to what. It wasn't cause effect. It was systemic.
That's right. Exactly.
And I'm not sure I fully understood the entire system at the time. Even now, maybe I couldn't understand the entire system running.
Yes, exactly.
But the emergent was clear. It was working, and it was working very well.
We did very well. That's right.
And it was because of us, right?
That's right, because we're so
amazing. That's what we thought at the time, and I'm realizing that's a BS thing to think.
Absolutely.
Very dangerous.
Yeah. And so then in the next 5-year chunk, which is like 2020 to 2025, and those were hard times, right? Starting with COVID, and in part because we didn't capitalize on the COVID time period. Like we discovered that other people in internet marketing were doubling down, and we were very shy. We didn't want to we're like, people are in financial difficulty right now. We don't want to capitalize and exploit them. And now it's like, no, actually a lot of people had like a ton of time on their hands and discretionary income, and they were seeking these kinds of things. Yeah. Well, we know that in retrospect, but at the time we were trying to be responsible. And it's like, actually, it would have been a great thing for everybody had we been willing to capitalize on that time period, but we didn't. And we had some personal things going on, So the next 5-year span became much more difficult, and we're sort of exiting that 5-year, and we're going to I believe we're entering the next 5-year span for Personality Hacker. And I think the reason why this is relevant right now is because you and I are sitting with this idea that the success that we had allowed us to get away with things and build bad habits and allow our egos to form conceits that didn't really hurt us until the next 5-year batch that we're talking about.
That's right.
Then all of those challenges and problems became very obvious, and they were uber painful because we were feeling the real effects of them. We were feeling we were not being subsidized any longer. There was nothing that was sort of magically covering it over. And so we actually experienced the consequences of poor thought patterns, ego, like all of that. And so I feel like this sort of the center point of everything you're talking about is this concept that sometimes success lets us get away with things that are not good for us long term. And if the success goes, well, now we have these terrible habits that we've built.
Yeah.
And we're now feeling the full weight of those terrible habits while simultaneously the success is gone.
Yes. And I'm standing in that American History Museum yesterday, and I'm looking at like stagecoach technology and how the automobile comes on the scene. And there were people, like stagecoach people that owned horses were like betting against the automobile. Right. Because they had a vested interest to bet against the automobile because they owned horses and ran stagecoaches. And so so what you're talking about with success, I'm going to say this to you if you're watching or listening, your job is what we're talking about. Like your career right now is a stagecoach with horses. Yeah. And things are going to change. And what the instinct will be, because this was my instinct too, even the last couple of years, I'm like, I don't want to have to change what I've been doing. I like the way I've been running our business. I don't want to have to learn anything new. I shouldn't have to. Right. Wah, wah, wah. Cry, baby, cry, baby, cry, baby. Yeah. I have this wake up moment to go, I can't bury my head. That's not like Gary Vaynerchuk said, like technology's going to win. Yeah. The automobile won against the stagecoaches. It just did. And it's like in hindsight, that was very obvious. It's hard to even think like, really? Maybe the horse will come through. I think even in that Gary V thing, he was talking about how like when we were wiring their houses for electricity, we also saw Edison light bulb inventions of this museum. By the way, this museum's fantastic. You ever get to DC, you got to go to this. Like you can see like the original light bulbs that Edison invented. But even electricity, people thought there were like demons or spirits in the electricity. We're going to stay with candles. It's demonic forces. Clearly, we don't like candles in our houses anymore. Most of us don't. So technology won. So this is going to win. Yeah. And your job is going to change. Your career is going to change. I don't know how fast. It might be within 6 months. It might be within 6 years. I don't know, but it's coming. We know it's coming. We know there's going to be a mass identity crisis across the entire planet when this happens. It's going to upend all of how money is made, how people's value is flowed. I mean, at the time of this recording, there's rumblings here in the United States. I think Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, one of the founders of Twitter, just tweeted a couple of days ago or put on X a couple of days ago about abolish intellectual property law. That's what I do for a living. Yeah. Like you and I create intellectual property and we sell it and we train and we do training. So that like if that goes away, that changes everything on us. Yeah, we basically don't have a capacity to generate income after that. Or people will just steal it like crazy and then we can't do anything about it. It's our job to figure out. No, it's not about how to figure out income. I think it's about how to figure out what the heck we're doing here for humans. Well, that's true. And the income will follow that. Because if you're adding value, that's what derives value. I agree. That's how I see it. So I think this is coming very fast. And I think that there's a crisis coming. And I think that it was based on something you were saying as far as the job that you're listening or watching right now will probably not be a job within 10 years. Yeah. And I know I can just see Antonia's like a little bit nervous. I'm saying this, like you're going to make people panic or trigger potentially. I don't know. I can feel your like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a sadness backlash or kind of like like, you know what I'm saying? Like, tell me what you're feeling right now. Cause I think you're tuning into maybe what somebody listening to me right now is feeling. Yeah. I think that there's a skepticism for just how much things are going to change. It's rightly so. And I don't share the skepticism, actually. I'm not representing the person listening because I think that it's going to... I believe that we are entering, I mean, in terms of almost every single model that I look at, and particularly right now, generational theory, which indicates that one saeculum is ending and another one is beginning. Generational theory is a model that I personally very much love,
We've done many, many podcasts on generational theory. And
should look it up. They're really good.
yeah, Strauss and Howe were the original writers, and I believe Strauss, Howe is still alive, and he wrote a book called The Fourth Turning is Here, and indicating what's going to happen as we end this, what's called a saeculum, or an 80 to 90 year time period that is concluding, and then another one starts up. And it's basically a value shift. It's a lifestyle and value shift that is he talks about it in terms of seasons. Winter is ending. We're at the very tail end of winter.
Yeah.
Winter always comes with what's called a total war. The last one was World War II. The one before that was the Civil War. The one before that was the Revolutionary War. And that total war shakes things up so profoundly that it gives space for spring to happen afterwards, and then a massive value shift and way of life shift. And that's just coincidentally coinciding with this. Basically, we're living at the end of winter right now.
Yeah.
And so I anticipate such a different life coming for us in like the next 10 years. Like, and I don't mean it's going to happen in 10 years. I mean, like in 10 years, I'm going to look back and feel like our hair was blown back with all of the changes that get made. Right now, people are already like, you can feel all the changes that are happening sociopolitically. You can feel the changes happening. I mean, just things are just not the same. And it's very hard to keep up with change that happens this quickly. And there is an autoresponder inside of us that wants to throttle changes that we can't adapt to fast enough. And it's very easy to say, oh, I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't think it's going to change that quickly, right? It's like doom and gloom. But I don't think, to your point, you said this is not a values statement. Like, I don't think we're saying it's going to change for good or for bad. And I do think that we will have to acclimate quickly. I mean, how quickly did we, I've said this before, but how quickly did we acclimate to a smartphone? Instantaneously.
Yes.
We instantaneously acclimated to a smartphone. Like it was, you know, the comedian Trevor, he died.
Trevor Moore.
Thank you. A couple of years ago, he said that when he was on his group comedy TV show, he said that they went out and bought they all bought iPhones in 2000. When they come out in 2008, 2007. They all went and bought iPhones, and he thought in 2 weeks they would all look up. And he said, and we just never looked up again, right?
Yeah.
Like just everybody acclimated so fast. So some of these changes are also going to be changes that are profound that we're almost not going to feel them because we're going to acclimate to them so quickly. So, and I know you're probably getting impatient, unfortunately, through the ball over to me.
Well, I have something I want to say about this.
Yeah.
I see it very clearly.
Yeah. But I was just going to say, it's understandable though that there would be just sort of this like denial, you know, of the realities that are coming for us because we can't truly predict the future.
Yeah.
But you run enough simulations and it's like, yeah, you're right. Technology always wins. And we're not going to like things that are clunky. Carrying around a phone is clunky.
Yes.
So of course it's going to be more streamlined in hardware, and having to access things like social media is clunky. So of course it's going to be more streamlined, and being able to talk to AI is becoming more and more ubiquitous, and it's so easy, and we're handing more and more of our tasks over to AI. So how is it not just inevitable that clunky technology would turn into streamlined technology, and conversations with AI will become a moment-to-moment experience for us, and that all of that would merge into the most convenient future possible, which will eradicate labor jobs and middleman jobs and intellectual property jobs. Like, why wouldn't those things collapse?
So, okay, so here's again where I'm coming down on this. So let's go to personality type for a second, and let's talk about the cognitive functions, and let's isolate the four decision-making, technically called judging functions. There are two that are outwardly focused. We know this. Harmony, extroverted feeling about the harmony of the group, the social interactions, and all these things. It's out. What should be happening out here with people, right? It's helping to manage that world. Extroverted thinking or effectiveness. It's about resource management, amelioration, building results, progress, measurement.
Right.
And then you have the two introverted judging functions. Introverted thinking, accuracy, or introverted feeling, authenticity. Those two extroverted judging functions have been really good at adapting and quickly updating our interface with the world. And I think I don't exactly know how to talk about this because at one point I go, kind of to what you were going to say originally before you said all that, I was going to say, I don't think we are going to be able to keep up we're not going to be able to update our interface fast enough for what's coming for us. Like it's going to be impossible. The changes are going to happen too fast for us to be able to update. Mm-hmm. And so one of two things is going to happen. We're going to attempt to, but I think we're just going to go, it's too much. Whatever they tell me to do, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
I literally don't have the time and energy to be able to research before I update something or even learn it. I just have to do what I'm told because it's happening so fast.
Yeah. I'm against government subsidies, but I'm going to get to a point where everybody's losing their job. So I guess universal basic income is a thing, right? Like that kind of thing.
Well, what I'm just saying is the technology. And I'm saying if technology is iterating that fast, and I'm almost it's just the human mind can't keep up. Mm-hmm. I just literally can't extrovert
fast enough. Yeah.
The outside world fast enough to keep up with it.
Right.
I think people are going to be burned out really easily, but I think what's going to end up doing is it's going to put pressure back onto our inner judgments. Mm-hmm. And we're going to say, wait a minute, I'm literally burned out from this. Mm-hmm. And we're going to say, stop. And the record's going to scratch. And we're going to say, I haven't spent a lifetime or even any time working on my own inner, what do I think about this? And how would I decide on this based on internal logic, accuracy, or internal emotion and resonance, introverted feeling, authenticity. And I think in that moment, the people that are prepared, that have done the work, that have actually learned how to use those mechanisms, I don't care what personality type you are, they've learned how to tune into the inner self and to go, actually, this is how I think about this, or this is how I feel about this.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to have to rely on that so much that we're not going to be able to keep up in the external. It's just going to move too fast. And the people that don't have that sense of self are going to get hijacked. Mm-hmm. Their inner world, and this is another statement I'm going to make. This is nuts what I'm saying, but I think this is coming. Their inner world will be colonized by the new colonizers. And the colonizers are coming for your inner heart-mind space.
Yeah.
They're coming fast for it. They've already started by labeling you with diseases and illnesses and disorders. Mm-hmm. Well, you've got narcissism, you've got this, or I've got ADHD. Mm-hmm. We're already allowing the powers that be to colonize our inner space through these labels.
Yeah.
And once we have AI to slice and dice things, it's only going to get worse. The only remedy that I see against this, the only antidote to this, is to get more human faster and tune into the internal, subjective, judging parts of ourselves. And I don't care if you're an EJ, it's going to be the way out because that's the only way you're going to be able to get out. This is my hypothesis.
Yeah.
And so Jungian concepts, Carl Jung, the idea of ego, shadow, persona, cognitive functions, not, this personality type equals these behaviors, but these functions are the soup or the ingredient base that makes us who we are. We're not these functions. They're just how we process information. We're not these things, but they are informative to who we are. This is going to be really important, a sense of self. And I think the internal, and you may not agree with me, Antonia. I'd love to get your feedback on this and what you see. But if somebody wants to prepare for this new world, I say get really clear on what you believe, either in your thoughts or your emotions or both. And then anytime you're caught in the external world that's moving so quick and it seems like it's just getting you caught up in the slipstream, you have a ballast to go back to because you've exercised the muscle before you need it. I'm telling you, it's coming. The success that you have in your job right now, there are bad habits that you're getting away with because your job is paying you a salary or hourly, and I don't care if you work really hard, there's subsidization happening there. We're getting away with stuff. We're getting more privilege for the things that we're doing than we actually earned in a way. Like not necessarily earned, but you know what I mean? It's like writ large, we're all kind of benefiting from the whole system working together.
Yeah.
And so we're not seeing the real cost of these things yet.
Yeah.
So I think these two ideas are the big ideas that I have in front of me right now as we're talking.
Yeah.
What do you think about that idea about the internal judging space?
I absolutely believe that we're being colonized.
Yeah.
Not even a question. Our identities and what we define as truth. I mean, we've always been colonized to some extent.
Well, religions do it, mental, yeah,
paradigms. Not just religions, but like political persuasions, and we tend to let ourselves we tend to outsource heavy thinking and And that includes, and I don't just mean like thinking like an introverted thinking. I mean like anything that requires us to just sit with ourselves in silence and figure out what it means to us as an individual, like what all of this, whatever all of this is, what it means to us as an individual. Life moves fast now. We never give ourselves any time for quiet. We don't input in a consistent, thoughtful way. We input in a fast potato chip way where we just go from one reel to the next or one TikTok to the next. So it's very easy since we already kind of have the impulse to hand that over to other people, it's very easy. It's easier now than ever because we don't have to like sit with the implications of it. And when we experience the implications of it, it's hard for us to connect those dots.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of outsourcing of thought and belief and paradigm and identity. And so we already have a tendency to do that. And because that's known psychological phenomena, then not just, I wouldn't even say bad faith actors. I would say anybody who believes either for profit or for crusade that is willing to let people just believe whatever they say to get that individual, like that person or that company's or that political persuasion or whatever to get their ends met, they will do whatever is necessary. There's these social networks in particular, which probably will be going away in the future, but right now they're hot and they're not going anywhere, in this moment in time. They will constantly and perpetually feed your biases back to you in a way where you believe you're being fair-minded.
Yeah.
You think you're getting all sides. You think you're listening to multiple different perspectives, but really you're just getting your same concepts, sort of echoed back to you over and over and over and over again.
It's because they're connected in the external world.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to have to go based on your behavior and what you tend to do rather than even what you desire or prefer.
Right.
Right. Your preference is very different than your behavior, to your point, right? And so the AI is going to go, well, you ordered that terrible for you drink yesterday that has terrible like sugar in it and stuff that's not good for your health. Clearly that's what you want, right? That's what you ordered yesterday. I'm going to go ahead and preemptively order it for you today. Yeah. That's your preference, right? Yeah. It's like, no, that's not my preference. That's what I did as a default.
Yeah.
I actually prefer to eat more healthy today.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing that. And AI may actually make that worse.
Yeah. Or I liked this post or this, or this thread or whatever. I liked this thing because of something that was said in it. But the overarching concept may be something I'm ambivalent to.
Yes.
And yet now I'm getting, because I liked that, I'm getting that same idea, the overarching concept that I may or may not have been ambivalent to. I'm getting it fed back to me over and over and over again.
Yes.
Until all of a sudden I'm not ambivalent to it anymore. Now it's my perspective.
Yeah.
And I experience this in myself. Like I'm not above this. I can definitely tell that like I get fed something often enough and I can sort of watch myself become very sympathetic to it. And I can watch myself start to think that anybody who doesn't think that, why don't they think that? Are they crazy? Right. I can watch it happen.
Yeah.
And the only way to get out of it is to separate oneself completely from paradigmatic thinking, right? And go, okay, I'm going to sit with this and how do I actually think about it? If I'm not being having a perspective insinuated constantly over and over again.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of how that quote unquote colonization works.
Well, I think the colonization works like this. We say it's taking our behavior, not our preferences. I want it to take my preferences. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, Joel, the AI designer says, let me colonize your inner space. Let me allow AI to touch point into your actual inner decision making. And then it can actually go from the desires you want, less just about your behavior. Let us get in there and connect to that. And you're going to be very happy.
Yeah.
So what I'm actually seeing is we're going to willingly allow, and I don't even know what I mean by colonizing the inner space. I know we're doing it through labels right now, like narcissist and all these like ADHD labels. Right. I know those are little strings we tie into people to like jerk on them and manipulate them and even ourselves. Like we use these as like external control levers to the inner world for people.
Yeah.
And I can't believe we allow ourselves to be labeled that way. But look at what happens with those same labels.
Yeah.
People bring them on themselves. Like, tell me I'm ADHD. Tell me I'm this disorder. Tell me I'm this thing. Tell me I've got this little unique whatever that no one else has on the planet that makes me special.
Yeah.
Like, we want that. We want to be labeled because it's easier for the external system to know how we feel inside. So we're going to run toward it. We're going to run toward this colonization is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it could be a Neuralink type technology where it's in our actual physical body. Again, I don't know what the technology looks like. I just know that this is where the energy feels like it's heading.
Yeah.
So if we're going to open up for that colonization, that's like, so we're going to bring it upon ourselves, not knowing what we're doing, not being aware of it. And again, I think people that understand personality types understand that there are different parts of ourselves. There's this inner part, there's this external part, and the parts have definition and we can kind of understand them through dialogue and unpacking, like in conversations like this. I think those people are going to be the most equipped to navigate this new reality.
Well, I think when you're talking about labels like ADHD or whatever, I think originally they were attempts to put a category around something to define an experience, a phenomena that was happening. And
the intent probably is good.
Well, yeah. Good, bad, neutral, it doesn't matter. The intent
helpful.
is...
Helpful. Let's say it's helpful.
Yeah, is to define something, is to put language to something.
Yeah.
And there's relief. Like in typology, when you first understand your best fit type and you read a profile around it, there's a sense of relief that you're being understood. And so there's a sense of relief that happens when, it's like, I just always struggled to do schoolwork. It was so hard for me to do what seemed like it was very easy for everybody else. And then I discovered I had dyslexia.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, it's a relief to know that I don't just struggle arbitrarily. Like I actually am, say transposing letters in my mind, or I can't read it the same way that everybody else reads it. And now there's a relief too, because it's like, oh, I'm not dumb. I'm not stupid, right? Yeah. Or I'm not broken or whatever.
I process information differently.
I'm
dyslexic. And these label, to your point, like the label dyslexia could be helpful. Oh, I transpose letters, a very basic one.
Yeah. And so when you use it as a way to define a phenomena, to help understand what's going on, and that you're not alone, that there's this thing that happens, maybe say to the mind or whatever, and you're like, okay, then it's a sense of relief. But just like with type, that experience of relief can be so intoxicating that now you take it to the next level, which is, this is who I am, this is my identity. And so that you can see that in type, or people's relationship to personality type. It's like, that's one of the reasons why we say things like, I have ENTP preferences, because the language itself conveys, even though it's like a sentence as opposed to just 4 letters.
Yeah.
Having ENTP preferences means that I have to perpetually be reminding myself that I am not an ENTP. That is not my identity. That is not who I am. And I don't want to over attach to it, because it then now becomes like I get quote unquote colonized by that identity. Now I can't see myself outside of it. Now I'm overvaluing it. Now I'm seeing it everywhere, even when it's an inappropriate tool.
Yes.
And it's also something that allows me to form the bad habit of introspection, which could lead to information that communicates parts of myself that don't fit that mold, meaning that I build the bad habit of being sated by a narrow definition, as opposed to doing a true spelunking, introspective spelunking exercise of discovering aspects and parts of myself that might not quickly and easily fit into a mold.
Yes.
So that's kind of what we're talking about with, like, when you're subsidized, when you have it a little easier, when success is too easy, then you build bad habits. And we don't have to like, do I know what I'm like in time periods of battle or war? Of course I don't. I've never been in a battle or war, so I don't know myself in that context.
Yeah.
Do I know myself in a context of famine? Do I know myself in a context of, like there's all these different contexts that I do not know who I am in those, because I've never seen myself play it out. And so I get subsidized into being able to see myself, or like know parts about myself that are in a very safe, contained environment. I do know who I am in an environment where I've been canceled. I do know what I look like when I've been, rejected by the people in my life. I know who I am there. And that experience meant that I couldn't just say that, I'm like, and before I was like part of a religion. So that religion was a big piece of my identity. And it's like, well, who want him? It was subsidizing. It was a bad habit. It was a bad habit of identity through a label. When I lost the label and I lost all of the relationships that basically that label was helping define, right? Who am I in relationship to all these people and who am I in relationship to this religion or whatever? When all of it was gone, then I realized the bad habit I had created of not knowing who I am without it.
Yes.
And then it took me literally years to discover aspects of myself without all of that. And so basically what I'm hearing you say is like the situation that we have now is we are, I don't want to use the word pampered, but I'm starting to really kind of dislike the word privilege because I think it's massively abused. But I guess pampered is not too bad of a word.
Blessed.
We're blessed. We're
freaking blessed.
Okay, blessed is a great word.
I mean, I think it's a spiritual blessing of sorts. I don't know why. I just think there's a blessing for a lot of the world. Like the world, not just like my country. I'm saying like we're blessed. Like
yes,
we've been given a gift from the gods to be able to live.
Yeah.
And continue to further humanity with leveraged tools to make our lives more easy, more comfortable. Yeah. I've been very blessed.
Now,
as a worldwide conglomerate.
Now, not all societies take advantage of those blessings, even though they are available.
And some oppress others.
That's
and there's
right.
oppression and there's terrible things happening in the world. I'm not saying that. And I just want to make sure comment too. Somebody's going, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, Joel Antonia. I got 3 jobs. I got gig work going. You're saying I'm blessed and don't have to struggle? Yes, I am in a certain way.
Yeah.
I understand it's hard. I'm not suggesting everybody's at the same level, but you probably, if you have 3 jobs, you probably live in the West, in a Western country, or maybe you don't, but you live in a country where you could get 3 jobs, not just one. During the Great Depression, in the 1930s, you couldn't get any jobs.
Yeah.
Right? So you have 3 jobs, and you probably can still go to a convenience store near you and buy a banana for 50 cents to $1. And you probably are watching this on a device or listening to this on a device that you can access all of the information that has ever been known in the history of the world at your fingertips.
Yep.
So I say yes, even if it's a struggle and you're listening to this podcast, you are blessed.
Yeah,
period.
absolutely.
I mean, we all are. If you're able to listen to this podcast or watch this, you're blessed.
Yep.
And I know not everybody has it the same. I know more people struggle than others. I'm not suggesting that.
For sure.
So I want to just make sure that comment, because I think some people can just tune that out and go, you don't understand my subject. It's harder than you realize. I get it.
Yeah.
And also I still think we're blessed if you zoom out far enough. For
sure. So we're pampered is a word, privilege is a word, blessed I think is probably the nicest of all of them and quite accurate. We're blessed enough so that we don't have to learn who we are in externally difficult times.
Yeah.
As in like, I mean, we might have some internal challenges. We definitely have philosophical challenges. There are people who are experiencing external catastrophe on the planet. But in this country right now, like we create all of our problems, really. You know what I mean? Like it's like almost all of the problems that we're experiencing are ones that are human made at this point. And why are we making them? Because we've allowed ourselves to oversimplify our relationship to who we are. We go, well, that person's bad. How do I know they're bad? Because they're on the other side of a issue of me. Well, because I'm by definition good. And so since I know that I'm good and they're on the other side of an issue, religious, politically, or whatever, and I've drawn this line, I've decided that they are bad and I have now a right to fight them for it. You know, and so and then we create strife, we create battles, we create conflict. And as opposed to sitting with ourselves and going like, how do I know that I'm good? How do I know that about myself? Well, because I know that I've thought about the things that I believe and I know that those things are good. And it's like, well, only because you've not been pressed to truly defend them. Like you don't have anything that's forcing you, like you're not watching yourself steal food, you know, because, or steal somebody else's property because you are in such terrible straits that it's this or die, right? It's like, if you've not been in a context like that, like it's really hard to contend with our own darkness. It's really hard to contend with the fact that we might not be good people. Like you have to sit with that. But if you're subsidized, if you're blessed, if you're in a situation where you've never had to make a survival decision like that, then you can just default to I'm a good person because your circumstances have never forced you to see that you're not, right? Yeah. That you're other than just a good person. So I think what we're talking about here is that quote unquote success, and success can just be a certain lifestyle or an ease or not having to do, like not having to go back to principles that that force us to see that that maybe we're taking a lazy way.
Yep.
Then when we're in a situation like that, we don't really have to question who we truly are at the center of everything. And then because we don't have to do that, and then another node in the system is that we are constantly distracted. And we've talked about before, like with our devices, we get unearned dopamine hits all the time, as often as we want them, really, honestly. It's like if I'm not feeling good. I'm kind of down and depressed. I don't feel good about myself, right? I feel like I'm not really living up to my potential, or I should have hit the gym, or I'm not making as much money as I want to, or why does that person have something and I want it, or I feel lonely. It doesn't matter what it is. We can pull our phone out or device out and we could just start scrolling.
Yep.
Right. And we just get all of this unearned dopamine over and over and over and distracting ourselves. And so at the first hint of I might not be a good person, we can immediately run to distraction. And those distractions will also they'll do that secondary benefit of trying to tell us who we are, and we willingly hand ourselves over to it.
I'd like to add a stronger word than distraction. I think it's a disassociation. Mm-hmm. I think we disassociate from ourselves. We're not just distracting. We're trying to completely disassociate through substance, through distractions. I think distractions is a way of disassociating, but those distractions are trying to disconnect from who we truly are. Mm-hmm. And then when we're doing these actions and we're looking on social media, even now, even before AI has hit the scene in a big way, even before it's at its, ultimate, we're already having a hard time determining what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Who is real and who is not? Who is authentic and who is not? Who is logical and who is not? And being in DC makes you think of this too. We walked past the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue yesterday, and I saw the Secret Service there, and I'm reminded the Secret Service doesn't just guard the president in our country and other officials. The Secret Service is also in charge of our printed money supply. Mm-hmm. That's the department that goes after counterfeit money. And I haven't verified this yet. I probably should. I keep using this example because it's such a great example. I almost don't want to know if I'm wrong because I like the example so much. Somebody told me once that when they're training Secret Service agents in the counterfeit department, they never show them a fake dollar bill. They never show them a fake dollar bill. They only study and train on the real, because that's the best way to spot counterfeit. You know the real so well. You're so intimately connected to the real that counterfeit is it's like really obvious to you because you just know the real so much. You can immediately tell when it's not.
Yeah. So
I again go back to the introverted judging space. And all the EJs are like, but that's my inferior process. How am I supposed to do this? I don't know. We're going to figure that out. We got some plans here. Come personality hacker, get an owner's manual. It'll all unlock. But I think that the inner space is also how we study the real. Mm-hmm. It's how we get to something that can't be messed with in the outer world, right? Because I think a lot of things can be obfuscated out here. There's a lot of smudging that happens in social dynamics or in business or in amelioration of resource. Like there's some acceptable spillage and some loss, and none of these like really, like there's counterfeit going on a lot out here. There's even counterfeit within the self and within other people too. I'm not saying that just because you're in the inside of how you make decisions that you're not counterfeit, but that's where the real lives as a human. So you want to get better at spotting who you can trust, who's authentic, who you can lean on, who has good logic, who has good thinking. Start to get in touch with the real you, the real self. Start studying the real thing. And I think it's going to help us navigate this space, navigate these changes, have a ballast for the big external changes that are going to happen so fast that we're either going to have to try to fail at keeping up, or we're just going to go, just tell me what to do. I'll do whatever you say, which I think is a major mistake. We won't get colonized. And then we also are starting to study the real so we can see what the counterfeit is in our world. I think these are the things that if humans are connected to that, a human that is working on that with the inner judgment to really know what I believe, I think you're going to have a better time of it as this transition comes. It's coming fast for us.
Yeah. And to that point, introverted functions, my overly reductionist, but I don't think is totally inaccurate belief about what an introverted function does for us is introverted functions are for processing.
Yeah.
Extroverted functions are for living. And so introverted thinking and introverted feeling, they are what help us process thought and process, first emotions, but also identity.
Yes.
And so processing takes a lot of time. It's slow. Like that's one of the reasons why we don't really like our introverted functions is it's slow. But the other thing is that you can't, and here's the real rub, is that introverted thinking and introverted feeling are both really crucial. For those of us who favor one or the other one is actually going to be really hard for us to truly access. And I know that this rubs FPs particularly the wrong way. A lot of FPs are like, I'm logical. I use introverted thinking. I'm like, well, introverted thinking isn't really about whether or not you're logical. Introverted thinking is about whether or not you're willing to face truth, even if it's personally offensive to you,
even if it goes against your identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's like it's willing to meet reality, like not just reality, but specifically the most inconvenient truths, and that they're inconvenient to who you are as a person.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
I mean, as a ENFP with ENFP preferences.
Yeah.
I do not want to do that.
Well, you just mentioned a lighthearted example, which is that I don't want to find out if my analogy is false because I like using it as an analogy.
Yeah.
And that's like
it works so well.
That's
a
right.
whole extroverted thinking effectiveness there too.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like that's a lighthearted version of it, but now talk about things, it's like what's your most beloved what is an identity level belief? And introverted thinking is there to tell you that it's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what introverted thinking, and like really its goal is to tell you that you're wrong. And you're not going to, like, you're probably never going to be right about it, actually.
Yeah.
Because when you use introverted thinking, you get to a place of truly getting to the bottom of almost every belief. And when you get to that place, it's like, oh, it's a paradox.
Yes.
Like, that's the truth. The truth is that, and for introverted thinking,
yes,
those of us who have TP preferences,
yes,
our hubris around being right and logical all the time. Like, I mean, you're not using introverted thinking very well if you think you're right all the time. Like, one of the things that seasoned introverted thinking users eventually get to is that they love finding out they're wrong.
Yeah.
That's a big difference between introverted thinking and introverted feeling. To introverted thinking, they love discovering they're wrong. They love it because it means that they can refine their thought and they can get just a little closer to the truth, which is not something you can ever land on. I think introverted feeling doesn't know that.
Yeah.
It doesn't know that the truth can never be landed on. But what introverted feeling does know is that we can never truly solidify our identity because that's always a moving target too. And so it's there to help us process our experiences, like truly process them in terms of what they mean to us as an individual, which TP types, we're just like, what are you even talking about? What does that even mean? I don't know how I feel. I don't know what I desire or want or think is like a crusade for me. I don't know any of those things. And so you have to have both of them. You have to, and that's the paradox too, is that you have to both be rooted and grounded in your identity and the things that mean something to you, while at the same time understanding that you're probably wrong, right? But you're less wrong because you've taken some time to really pare it down to the thing that's important to you, right? And so it's like, it's this shaving. It's this constant and perpetual shaving process of identity. And at the center of all of it is a pretty, like what you're trying to do is you're trying to become a grounded person.
Yeah.
You're trying to be humble and grounded and not, not buy your own bullshit too much, not drink your own Kool-Aid, but at the same time, not let people push you around or not allow people to cross your boundaries. Like it's a dance, really.
Yeah.
So I guess to bring it back to your topic, and you probably are tagging something. When we're in a time period where we can get away with the potato chip version of identity, the potato chip version of identity is labeling yourself based on your disorders. It's labeling yourself based on personality type preferences. It's labeling yourself based on political persuasion or religious belief or anything that is sourced from out there.
Yes.
That's potato chip level. That's like snack level identity.
Yeah.
And when we're in a time period where we can get away with that, because our life does not force us to see a deeper place. In fact, it'll do almost anything to get us out of a space of true introspection, because that's not in anybody else's best interest for us to know ourselves and our whole selves. It's harder for us to be manipulated. It's harder to sell to us. It's more difficult. Like there's a bunch of things that make it so that every faction out here feels that understanding one's true whole self identity is not in their best interests. And so everything is designed to pull you out of that space.
Yes.
We're in a time period right now where we can get away with it. Now,
It's why psychedelics are illegal and opiates are illegal.
That's right.
I mean, it's okay to dull yourself out, disassociate.
Yeah.
But to associate even more, like with a psychedelic, like LSD or magic mushrooms or something like that, even marijuana for a long period of time, cannabis.
Yeah.
These have been demonized because they associate you even more.
Yeah, but alcohol's fine.
Yeah, alcohol, dissociative alcohol, that's totally acceptable, right? Yeah. It's been a food item for a long time culturally, so I understand why that's there. But I think even the way we've classified our drug technologies is very, I mean, there's been lots written about this way before I was even born, right? Tim Leary was talking about this a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason they'll hand out fentanyl, but they won't hand out LSD.
And there's a reason why Freud is popular in psychology circles and Jung is not.
Right. Exactly.
And there's a subsidization of the big five that works right now because we're spoiled and blessed. Mm-hmm. But wait until we're not spoiled and blessed. That big five type system is going to break down so fast.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't solve any problems.
Yeah. Who cares if you have high openness?
and this is the thing. We're going to do a podcast on this. We're going to talk about the difference between diagnosis and dialectic. Mm-hmm. And I think Jung is more dialectic. Carl Jung is more subjective. It's about play and inspiration and finding ideas within yourself. It's not about behaviors and you push this button on the brain and it makes your arm fly out this way. That's not tokenized like that. And everybody in that gets interested in personality types keeps trying to go the definitional route. Let's define. Let's make, even instead of just 16, let's make 32 or 64 or 512 or 5,073,000,073. And let's define. And I'm like, why? To what point? That's going to break down. That's subsidized.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything for the subjective inner space in a world we can't predict. That's coming faster than we can predict.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And so I believe, going back to the Jungian principles and all of this, the building blocks of it, the subjective, playful, inspiring nature of it through dialogue between people, just like we're having on this podcast. We practice, we preach from day one. We're still doing it.
And dialogue with self. Dialogue with
each other. It's about the carbonation of the understanding through the conversation. That's where the magic is. Mm-hmm. It's not in watching a YouTube video and saying that person picked their nose at minute 4. That must be an ENFP because all ENFPs pick their nose live on camera or whatever. I don't know.
It's true though. They totally do.
Anyway, I'm stepping back off the soapbox now. I'm back down off of it.
What are you talking about? This entire thing has been a soapbox.
But I'm actually not even upset at any of this. I'm just saying this is so, I can see this so clearly in front of me. It's like I cannot unsee it. And so I thought I need to talk about this.
Right.
And there's more to talk about. I could probably spend 5 episodes on each one of the things we've mentioned on this show.
Right.
Because there's so much content here and so many things to think about and unpack.
But I think if we're going to pare down what we're talking about right now is we're talking about how it is very easy to hand important, crucial awareness and understanding about one's identity to other people.
Yeah.
To concepts and to models and to paradigms. It's so unbelievably easy to hand our identity over to others for programming.
Yeah.
And then once they give us back that program, we go, okay, thanks. This is who I am. This is how I think. This is these are the problems that I have. This is my diagnosis, right? It's so easy to do that.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is you've got to fight that tooth and nail because it only works on a spiritual level. And I don't even mean works in career or relationship. I mean as a non-fractured human being, right? Jung talked about individuation, which is individuation means not divided, right? Literally in, not, and individuated, divided. And he meant like Lincoln's concept of a house divided, right? It's like individuation means that we are not divided within ourselves. We don't have all of these little labels and, like pieces of ourselves that are at war with other pieces of ourselves. We accept the entire thing and we listen to the entire whole self. That's individuation. And that's a spiritual practice, right? Like if you're really truly doing Jung right, so to speak, it becomes not just a psychological tool, but it becomes a spiritual tool as well.
Yep.
And so we can get away with being this spiritually disconnected from self because we're subsidized through success that we make, success, like collective success or even individual success, but collective success that we're benefiting from other people's hard work when we experience this. Like as in America, Americans earned it. But what are we talking about when we say Americans earned it? Well, we're mostly talking about like our forefathers and people that came before us and all of the hard work that they poured into the infrastructure. And we can work hard too and do our little bit as a citizen of the system. But when we say that like we earned it, we're not really talking about me, Antonia Dodge. I did not earn the kind of life that I get to live because I'm standing on the shoulders of all of the people that came before.
That's right.
So I'm subsidized in that way. Success happened easy for me because I am in a context or situation where success is much easier to produce than other time periods and other contexts. And so because of that, if I want to slice and dice, if I want if I am spiritually disconnected from self, but I don't want to feel the full weight of that, I don't have to right now. Because I'm not in a time period of...
You won't be forced to.
Yeah, I'm not going to be forced to, right? In fact, everybody around me is actually going to pat me on the back for being like them.
Yes.
Right? I'm going to tell everybody what my diagnoses are. And I'm going to tell everybody what my personality type is. And I'm going to tell people, I'm going to play that game. And everybody will, in order to, to have it... the real thing not mirrored back to them, they'll give me a golf clap and go, yes, that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And then when hard times hit, and it doesn't even have to be like war, but we probably are about to experience a time period of sacrifice. And it might not just be, it might be economic collapse. It might be an actual war. Who knows what it's going to look like? Or it might just be time of complete and total spiritual bankruptcy.
Or complete success. In other words, these AI systems just handle all of these things. So you go, there's like, the blessing continues, but it accelerates, and we never get it back to self. Like, I'm not even thinking it could always be bad. It could also be really good, and that can harm us just as much.
Well, and that's what I mean when I say complete and total spiritual bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it might go to a place where we basically are just hollowed out as humans. And in that time period, we won't be as subsidized, right? We can already feel the experience of spiritual bankruptcy everywhere, right? And the advent of secular religions all over the place, because for some reason people will not pursue true spirituality, whatever that means, right? And so the only way to do that is to fight it, to swim against the stream, to when everybody else is adopting or allowing them their inner terrain to be colonized, to fight that phenomena.
Yes.
And I think the number one how-to on all of that, and we can talk about it in terms of type, and we can talk about it in terms of introverted judging functions, because that's how we see it. But I actually think that the only way to fight it is to give oneself silence. As in, like, I think everybody should have no less than 20 to 30 minutes of complete and total silence every single day.
If you're watching or listening, this is your action step.
Yeah, this is the action step. Like,
see if you can create silence this week.
Some people can't even do it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you might, just like with exercise, you might have to build up to it. You might have to give yourself 2 minutes of silence, and then the next day 3 minutes, and then work your way up in 2 months to 1 hour. But if you can give yourself minimum, and I mean minimum, eventually work yourself up to 20 to 30 minutes of total silence, right? Where you're just staring at a wall, basically, and sitting with your own thoughts and sitting with your own feelings.
Yeah.
That is that is the best way to fight it. And initially your brain will it'll try to self-entertain. It'll try to fill in the gap of whatever you used to use as entertainment, and it'll miss it, almost kind of like an addiction. So you might have to
disassociation. It wants to disassociate again.
Exactly.
Silence is going to associate you with yourself.
That's right.
Your own mind and your experience.
Right.
And our instinct is to disassociate from that. It's too much. We can't handle being with ourselves right now.
Yep.
Most of us.
Yeah.
There are a few people that have meditation practices can do this.
Right.
And there are many people right now listening or watching that have this practice. But there's somebody right now, you're listening, you don't have this capacity.
Right.
And your instinct, I got to disassociate. I got to get distracted. I got to do whatever I have to do. I cannot be with myself.
Right. Exactly.
I cannot be with myself.
Exactly. And so it's a practice of associating with self. Disassociating, you can do a little bit of disassociation with introverted thinking, but we're talking about something different. We're talking about not just pursuing some sort of dopamine hit.
Yes.
Right. We're talking about just like being with the self. So initially, your brain will try to find those avenues of dopamine or whatever, and then the next thing it'll attempt to do is after you try to distract yourself or find ways to replicate the distracting experience, then your brain is going to go to basically trying to reinforce what it thinks it already knows. So if you start thinking about your beliefs, if you start thinking about your opinions or perspectives, Robert Anton Wilson calls it what the thinker thinks the prover proves. And so your brain will start to believe it's its job to prove all of those things are true. But eventually, if you give yourself enough silence, eventually you'll get to a place where your brain will start to reevaluate. It'll start to question itself. And until you get to the place where you're questioning yourself, all the other stuff was just lead up, right?
Yeah.
Like that was just all like, that's kind of like, you don't really get gains in the gym until you figure out how to, basically tear your muscles and put them in pain, right? Because muscle is built through tearing them and then repair. And if you just go to the gym and like run on the treadmill for 15 minutes or whatever, it's like you're building the discipline of it, but you're not actually building muscle.
Yeah.
Eventually you get to a place where you know what you're doing. And so everything else is just lead up and discipline. So what you're doing is you're until you get to a place where you're now reevaluating, questioning yourself, letting go of beloved beliefs, not beloved, but beliefs that other people gave you, letting go of elements of your identity that other people gave you, until you start letting some of that go, and then discovering who's still left underneath. Then everything else is just building the discipline of it. And at that point, now you can decolonize. Yes. Now you can start to discover who the self is outside of all of that other stuff. And that is a path of, in my opinion, true spirituality. And that's how you get back your quote unquote spiritual credit, right? You're no longer in spiritual bankruptcy if you can start doing that. And I think that that's going to be the lifeline through all of the stuff you're talking about.
I agree. And we do a lot of work with Dr. John Beebe, who came up with the 8 function model. He has this concept of, we talk about typology with him a lot, right? Typology it's more diagnostic. It's more about the behavior. It's all this. But he also talks about topology. We have an 8 function model. We've got these cognitive functions. Topology is a map. We can find our way around the map. And topology tells us where to do the things you're talking about, Antonia. When depending on our personality type, we might approach this a little differently. Mm-hmm. That silence you're talking about might be easier for some introverts than us extroverts. Like I have a harder time being silent and still with myself, but introverts trend to have an easier time of it. Not always, but sometimes trend to. But everybody's wired differently. And so I recommend using the map of type. It's a very simple, just go get silent. That's great. But if you want a topographical map, how do I go and do that? How do I cross the journey? How do I make these things happen if I'm on the journey of my life? I think personality type, particularly how we talk about it, is a topology map for that. With the cognitive functions. The CAR model is a great example, personality.com/CAR model. It's a topography map. It shows you the function layout, their relationship with each other. We even nickname them with driver, co-pilot, 10-year-old, 3-year-old. It's a topography of, that's the map of how I'm showing up. I get it. So we can find those parts of ourselves. I recommend, if you're listening right now, go over and get an owner's manual for your personality type at personalityhacker.com. We have 16 different ones, and they'll break these things down for you, your personality type, not just in your type 4-letter code, but the topology of your type, how you can do these things, how you process through like a map to actually make these changes in your life, to get silent like you talked about. or anything else you want to connect with in life. And it's about building that as the ballast, no matter what the external content, topical content is. We're not approaching it from a topical way. We're not going to say, oh, here's relationship. Every ENFP does this in relationships. Every ENTJ does this in business. No, you might do it differently, but here's the ingredient base you're working with. Here's what makes up your preferred personality. And I think those owner's manuals can be really helpful there.
Yeah. Yeah.
While you're over at personalityhacker.com, getting your owner's manual for a personality type to start there, you can check out our other offerings as well. But leave a comment or a question or your story below this podcast. I think we'd really love to get a conversation going around some of these ideas. I think we need to talk about this more. I think this stuff is very near and dear to my heart. And I think we do this podcast in a principled way for two reasons. One, for you right now, there's a window I think we have as humanity that is open, maybe 5-10 years, where we have the ability to get ahead of this coming tsunami. I think it's going to be coming really fast for us. This AI, whatever's going to happen. And we can't predict it. If we can't predict it, let's get more centered to the self. That's the way through. That's the only thing we're going to be able to rely upon. It's going to help us with knowing what counterfeit is. It's going to help us with the ballast as these transitions happen. We'll know who we are and what we want or don't want in the midst of all of that. So that's really important. The second reason we record these, I think, is for my grandkids and your grandkids. I mean, I think that there's going to be people that get caught up in this storm, this tsunami, that weren't alive at the time of this recording. Hopefully this will be principled enough that someone that's in the storm later, that's caught up in the external world, maybe their inner space is starting to get colonized or it's already been colonized, they can break free by hearing some kind of message like this. I'm hoping it's a message in the bottle for the future. For my own grandkids' survival and thriving, I hope it hits them somehow, because it's going to be important that they get themselves out of this.
You know what? I realized the advantage to having done this for, we've been doing this for we're in the 11th year, maybe. Yeah, 11th year. I realized that I was super grateful that we have been doing this for so long, because we get to feed into what AI thinks of as content
for personality types. I'm sure we're influential in it some way.
Yeah, in some way, right? We're like one of the, when you're a content creator, you get to sort of feed how AI experiences type. And so I think part of the reason why I'm doing this too, I've always thought about it like future generations or whatever, but actually it's because I want to influence AI. I want it to see my content as part of how type works. Yeah. And to pull on it, because I might never be known in the future. But if we can continually insist that type and type development go hand in hand, that you can't really talk about personality types unless you're talking about growth and development and accelerated maturity and seeing all of these as topographies and models and understanding whole self and making the connection between Myers-Briggs and Carl Jung and John's work and all of that. Yeah. I want to just keep insisting on all of that so it can feed into AI, so AI will then produce, when people ask questions in the future, it'll produce answers that go, yeah, but you can't really do it without development. And I'm like, yes. I mean, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but that's part of my personal goal in all of this. So anyway, so you're right. Head over to Personality Hacker. You said that. And my job is to say, and if you enjoyed the podcast, you can subscribe to us on iTunes and various Android platforms. If you leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, that helps us out a lot. And you can also watch us on YouTube in our video podcast. In fact, you might be doing it right now. And if you enjoyed this episode, which was it felt like an old-timey episode, didn't it? Where we just kind of had an idea and we were like, we're just going to talk about it. And that's what it's going to look like.
No idea where it was going to go.
And I have no idea if any of it made any sense, but it was interesting to us.
It did. It was brilliant.
Don't know about that, but okay, cool. But
I mean, decided, yes, it's brilliant. It's
I thought it was interesting. I think it's a topic that you and I have been talking a lot about, so hopefully it translates. But I enjoyed it. It was like one of the old timey ones from many moons ago. That said, if you enjoyed it, you can like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notification on future episodes. And oh, no, I did mention the leave a rating and review. I said that quickly, but I think you should go do it right now. Yeah. You go leave a rating review on Apple Podcasts. Just go do it right now. And don't get weird about it, Joel, because sometimes you get weird and insecure, but I'm just saying go do it because I'd like another hit, please. So go make it happen. I'm not insecure about it. I agree with you. Go do it. It's all good. My name is Joel Markwitt. And I'm Antonia Dodge.
And we'll talk with you on the next Personality Hacker podcast.